The James Show Podcast.
Boy, however low you think of the media, I promise they're worse than that. You may think you hate the media. They deserve so much more. You are way too nice to these people. The coverage of yesterday's Minneapolis shooting. Now, you're not going to be surprised by this, but it's still just as a human being to see other human beings behave like this in the face of dead children. It's going to kind of break your heart a little bit. So the audio I'm going to play from you was all cut from the same time the James Show was on yesterday. Newsbusters did a rundown on this that I'm passing along to you. And one of the cuts, the cut from NBC, the cut from CBS, I'm going to play, actually happened in the 5 o'clock hour. So it was after the James Show yesterday. Just so you know, this wasn't in the first 5 minutes when we didn't know anything about the shooter. This wasn't in the first few hours when there were reports or internet rumors that were floating around, but it hadn't been confirmed yet. You and I talked about this for all 3 hours on the show yesterday. It had already been confirmed with very little doubt. I mean, with almost as positive as you could possibly be on a first day story like that. About some of the aspects of the shooter. One of them was that he put "Kill Trump" on his magazine, on one of the magazines for his guns, and then on the, I guess where you would put the optics in, kind of on the barrel, "Kill Trump Now." So "Kill Trump" was on there a couple times. Also, the fact that he's of the trans community. Those are kind of important details, and we knew it. And it was part of, and it's not like the only thing that matters in the whole story, but these are two very important details that let you know about this guy's motive, let you know about this guy's political persuasion. Let you know, for the love of God, he's not a Trumper. And for the love of God, he's also part of a very, very small community that, if you include this detail, kind of really narrows it down to a special group that's been having debates in the court of public opinion across a swath of issues, whether it's bathrooms or the Olympics. But it gets left out in the reporting. It gets left out. Y'all just act like you didn't even know that. You don't even want your audience to know. You don't trust your audience with that information because what? You think they may react with some sort of antipathy toward your preferred group of people, toward some privileged special group? And it's hard to do this because I don't know how I can play you where they didn't cover it. So I can give you 90 seconds where they, or a minute where they go through the description of the suspect, and you can just notice that they leave those two very important details out. But ABC did it worse. So let me do CBS first. And I'm not going to play you from everyone. I'm just going to give you two clips here so you know I'm not just cherry picking one clip and pretending like that's the main train of thought across all the legacy old school media networks. But here's CBS News first. See what they leave out on the description.
CBS News has confirmed via multiple law enforcement sources that the gunman has been identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman. And right now, investigators combing through the social media, the online postings of the gunman here, determining exactly what timeline of events led up to the tragic incident that we saw today. Law enforcement officials have identified writings on the magazines of some of the weapons that were used by the gunman, hateful rhetoric, including words targeting the President of the United States, Donald Trump, invoking the Holocaust and threatening the lives of children. It also appears that the mother of the gunman was a former employee of Annunciation, of the school, who had retired a couple of years back. And so initially authorities had said there was no clear connection between the gunman and the school itself. Now it appears as though the mother of the gunman does have a connection with that school.
All right, so she didn't mention anything about trans, but at least she did mention some antipathy toward Trump. She didn't go so far as to say he wrote "Kill Trump." She just said some criticisms of Trump, like, oh yeah, he's a threat to democracy, or he tries to steal elections, or he did January 6th or something. But no, there's at least a nod to it. Now, this next one, Aaron Katersky, ABC, you're going to hear this. He's going to leave out the trans thing too. But listen to how he inserts the Trump into his report. It almost sounds like the dude is pro-Trump, or it doesn't let you know either way if he's anti or pro-Trump. Just throws it in there, and Boy, that's deceptive.
23-year-old Robin Westman was able to leave what police called a video manifesto that they're now going through to try and establish motive. We've also been going through it and can tell you there are crude diagrams of the church. There are also photos of the weapons, and they include all sorts of writings, the names of past mass shooters, criticism of Israel, the name of President Trump. Written on the guns. There are also racial slurs, nihilistic statements, all painting the picture of a disturbed individual who carried out this mass shooting on the first week of school at the Annunciation Church in Minneapolis.
See, he almost tries to leave you with the impression that he was pro-Trump. Yeah, he had the name of Trump on there, then a bunch of racial slurs. You know, your regular old crazy white guy, probably MAGA. Christ, that is dishonest. Can you people just drop it? Can you drop the dishonesty? Because a lie by omission is still a lie. You leave out a very important detail about the motive and the demographics of this guy for only political purposes. That is sick. Like, that's a level of dishonesty that, all right, I'm not surprised that the media does it. We see them do it all day, every day. But not about dead kids. Not when they have 2 dead kids in front of them and 14 kids in the hospital. 14 kids and 3 more adults got shot, and you're still playing the political propaganda game, the lie by omission game. They're like, well, let's leave out this detail because that doesn't make our side look good. Drop it, people. We have dead kids. That's sick stuff. May I never be caught doing that. Good Lord. Minneapolis shooting that happened yesterday. We were just mocking the coverage of it where they're leaving out some very important details. And these aren't incidental details. If you want to try and learn something from this situation and notice patterns and try and prevent this stuff, or at least minimize this from happening in the future, you need to be honest with yourself about the causes, the motivations, the demographics that are doing this. This is one case where, your age matters, your gender matters, your race matters, your socioeconomic status matters, your orientation matters. Whatever info we can have to put together up on the chart to try and figure out what's going on here and get in front of this, that is necessary for the future of public safety. Now, the disappointing part, I think, did you hear this clip from Trey Gowdy? I think Vince played it yesterday, actually. Did Vince play this yesterday? Because if he didn't, I think Mark Levin played it too. But this is something, I expect this from someone on MSNBC. I expect this one from a politician with a D after their name. I expect this from the next montage of celebrities. It's the guns. We got to do something about the guns. I do not expect this from Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy, the Republican congressman, a guy who was swept in during the Tea Party wave. Remember that? He was one of those. And it's not just guns. He's just blaming white males. Okay.
Our system is reactive. Something bad happens, we react to it. And what people are crying for now is, how can we prevent this? How can we stop it? And the only way to stop it is to identify the shooter ahead of time or keep the weapons out of their hands. And so we're going to have a conversation of freedom versus protecting children. I mean, how many school shootings does it take before we're going to have a conversation about keeping firearms out? It's always a young white male, almost always. I mean, did anyone this morning think, I wonder if that was a female? Did any of y'all think that? I mean, there's been one school shooting involving a female.
It was in Tennessee.
One. Yeah, Tennessee. But other than that, it is usually young white males. They're
Yeah, I guess it's okay. You can just slander white guys all you want. Anybody going to call that racist? He was making a judgment about an entire group of people based on an immutable trait, their race. A negative judgment, just a generalization, just as straight up racist as it can possibly be. No one sees racism. He's not going to get called out for that. The people who saw racism in the Sydney Sweeney ad, who saw literally Hitler in the Sydney Sweeney ad, you don't see that's not racist to you? Why is it always white guys? It's always white males. Oh, okay. So misogyny or misandry, I guess it would be, because it's against guys. No concern about it there. Why not? Is that okay if it's against white males? That's all right. We can just say racist things. We can make blanket judgments, negative blanket judgments about entire groups of people based on immutable characteristics. Cool. But this comes from Trey Gowdy. This comes from a Republican. Thanks a lot. Did he bring up the shooter's orientation? Did he not know it? Bro, what is the difference between you and ABC and NBC that I just played, or ABC and CBS that I just played in the previous segment? I don't need you piling on me too. I don't need you ignoring quite obvious red flags. Thanks a lot. And he's throwing out lefty talking points there, anti-gun talking points. Because he asked the question, and they think this is such a checkmate, this is such a slam dunk. How many school shootings do there have to be before we have a conversation about keeping guns out of the hands of... Here's the answer. All of them. Infinity. My rights are not up for debate. I don't care how many school shootings we have. You're not talking about how do we minimize the death to children once the shooting happens. You're talking about some sort of weird Minority Report thing like that's even possible. That's not... Our justice system is reactive. You're damn right it's reactive. We don't have you get arrested before you commit a crime. This isn't the Minority Report. That's necessarily an inherent trait of a criminal justice system. It is by definition reactive. It's not criminal justice if you're running around taking guns away from people who you don't see fit to carry them. That's not criminal justice. That's a clear infringement of rights. That's unconstitutional. That's unethical. That does not fit the Enlightenment philosophers on whose thought process the Constitution was based. Having a reactive criminal justice system isn't even a bad thing. It's the most normal thing in the world. It's what it should be. And if it's more than reactive, you should be concerned. You shouldn't lose your rights if you haven't done anything wrong. Can we all agree to that? We have a whole bunch of constitutional professors when it comes to Abrego Garcia getting sent back to his homeland. Oh, jeepers, he didn't get his full complement of due process rights. Well, how many times has this guy been to court? And we already know he's illegal. He already had a deportation order. It got stayed because of some BS asylum claim that he only filed after he got arrested, after he had been here for 10 years, after he beat his wife. She tried to get a protective order against him. You're constitutional purists when it comes to Abrego Garcia. But when it comes to every innocent person in America's gun rights, screw that. And this is coming from Trey Gowdy. You're supposed to be on our side, sir.
Yeah, there's only two ways to stop it.
No, there's another way to stop it. We learned it. We learned it at the Joel Osteen Church. When the crazy person who is an illegal immigrant, trans, free Palestine activist, checking all the boxes there, when she got there and she started squeezing off rounds, someone was there to pull out a gun and stop her before she killed anybody. By the way, another she. They're not all white males, are they? And you know they're not all white males. There's plenty of examples of black people and Hispanic people. There's even Asian people that have done mass shootings. So no, it's not always white males. Thank you very much. Can you stop being racist against me for 5 seconds? Can someone please just call it out? Hey, people out there who are listening who aren't straight white males, just imagine. Imagine what it's like if people cry about racism. They see racism in everything. They see it in a Cracker Barrel menu. They see it in a Sydney Sweeney jeans ad. But then when real racism is said against you, no one cares. At the same time the James Show was starting, the Minneapolis police had a press conference to update on the shooting that happened yesterday. And I was going through that because I DVR'd it and I was just skipping through to the question and answer point. And the guy that's giving the answer here is the acting U.S. attorney that's going to be handling this case. And he's asked if this is going to be considered a hate crime, which I thought is probably a pretty important question that you would want to know the answer to. So this was his response.
Can you speak to what the FBI director said?
Well, I haven't talked to Director Patel, but certainly there's evidence of hate. As I mentioned, the shooter expressed hate towards many groups, including the Jewish community and including President Trump. So obviously, as in most cases where there's a mass shooting at a house of worship or a school, federal law enforcement will work with state and local law enforcement to investigate to make sure what happened. We know what happened and we prosecute as appropriate.
All right. So did you get that? That sounded kind of like a yes, but it's also so vague in a way that sort of reminds you that hate crime laws are dumb. It's such a subjective thing. Like anyone lovingly does a mass shooting. Like murder isn't bad enough. Oh, well, he also was guilty of these thought crimes. How about we just give him the death penalty or put him in an insane asylum or whatnot? Why does that change your view on this? Well, whether or not he was hate-filled. What do you think? He was just a really bad shot and he missed his target and accidentally hit kids? Strange. But also it points out to where, this is a hate crime. What's it called? Christophobia? We don't even have a word for when the oppression goes the other way. Well, what is it when you're racist against white people? Anyone ever called a black supremacist? Have you ever heard any shooter called a black supremacist? How rare is that? Is there a heterophobe? Is there a response? Is there a reciprocal term for that? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. This is John and Kemp. You're on WBAP.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call, James.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, I've got a two-part question for you. I've heard a little bit about these videos that whatever this was that was putting the videos on, and he or she or whatever. But how long, do you know, I've not heard how long, was it a day, weeks, a month, that this person had been putting these terroristic threats online.
The terroristic threats came on just a few hours. It was still dark outside. Or maybe he's just in a windowless room. But he posted it. The term is hours. So I think it was in the early morning of the shooting. And there was other videos on his channel. Some of them were really boring. Like I watched as much as I could before they took it down. And then some other terminally online people like me had clipped it. And so I got to see there's this one where he's reading the manual that came with his microwave or some other appliance. It's really weird. And
wow.
Yeah. So, one of the things that makes me pause on like the whole anti-trans angle on this guy's just a psycho. He is like, and I don't mean that as a euphemism. Like he probably meets the textbook definition of a psychopath. He didn't seem to be abused. It's not like a beat dog who now just wants to light a match and watch the world burn. He was born with a malfunction, and about 2% of us are born like that. About 2% of us are capable of killing people like that.
I wonder if he was he on some medication or something like that. I'm asking this because what you said about being a psycho, and I understand you didn't mean it. I understand how you meant it, but I wonder when he had his background, if he bought these firearms legally. Is that not part of the background check they do on us when we buy a firearm to see if we're on some kind of medication like whatever that stuff is? I mean, I don't know. See,
now this is why I don't like background checks at all. We got to get rid of these. Because what happens if we do start? What happens if that's someone's solution there? Well, if you have any antidepressants in your background, then you can be denied buying a gun. That means they can strip the gun rights away from anyone who's ever taken one Prozac. And how many of us is that? I mean, what, like 20% of us have taken some, 30% of us? I don't know what the number is, but how many of us have had some sort of, mentally attached prescription or drug use? Period, point blank in his story. And so what is my dad? My dad took Prozac. Is he going to lose his gun rights? He's like a 73-year-old Vietnam vet. He's not going to do anything to anybody. Should we give him a hard time over buying a gun? Absolutely not. Now, was he on SSRIs? Is what a lot of people bring up in these mass shootings. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he was. But I'm not so sure if, that's the cart leading the horse there because, it's not that SSRIs make people into crazy folks. It's that we give crazy folks SSRIs. So I'm not sure if they're to blame or they're just a detail that's going to necessarily pop up because that's what we do with crazy people like this these days. We don't go put them into one flew over the cuckoo's nest. We don't tell them that, these fantasies you have in your head are wrong. We just encourage it and go along with it. And you just be you and get a participation trophy. And this is where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't think about it. You're right, though. If somebody just took something for a few months or whatever,
Well, no one would go get help. Think of all the veterans that come back from theaters of war that need some help. Everyone would be scared to go get therapy. Everyone would be scared to go to the psychiatrist for fear of getting help because then you would lose your gun rights. And even if you didn't, they would expand it to where if you went to a psychiatrist and he recommended SSRIs and then gave you the prescription, but you didn't fill it or take it, are we just going to, incrementally creep on our rights like that? Well, look, he's crazy enough that he needed them. We'd probably take him. It'll never end. And the killings won't stop. You'll just have an erosion of your rights. All great questions.
I like to listen to you. You always know a good answer. And you're right. I agree with you 100% on that. I didn't think about that part of it.
Oh, you're so nice. Yeah.
Well, my second part of my first question was, which you pretty much already answered it, that they'd only been on there for a few hours. I thought these sites, YouTube or whatever, X or whatever, they have something that monitor for terroristic threats, or it throws a flag up and then it gets sent to someone else to investigate it.
Even if he didn't do the shooting,
correct?
that's something that probably would have been taken down within hours. But also, he wrote it in the Cyrillic alphabet, English words, but with the phonetic Cyrillic alphabet. So I'm not sure if any AI scan would have picked it up. Man, John come with the great questions. My next guest, also a host here on WBAP. You can hear him on the weekend, Spencer McGowan from Net Worth Radio. Welcome back to the James Show. I wanted to have you on today because we got a revision for the second quarter's GDP growth. It got revised up 0.3%. So it went from 3% growth is what was initially reported to 3.3% now, 10% higher than we thought just a few weeks ago. So how good is the economy, Spencer?
You saw that too. That's a great observation. When Garrett called me and said, hey, there was a revision upward, I said, I knew that was significant, and I'm glad you guys saw it. That was very astute.
Right. And so we have GDP growth going up, and, I'm not sure if it's going to be able to go much higher than this for the second half of the year. But if we can just maintain this, then I think things are going to be pretty good.
That was pretty amazing. The 20-year average is 2.1%, by the way. So that's 50% above average.
Okay.
That is relatively strong. And there's some background numbers too that are pretty amazing that point to the fact that may continue. And being above expectations on GDP, when the second quarter started being estimated by the Atlanta Fed, at one point, it was like 3.6% briefly, and then it came back to 2-something, and they were as close to accurate as anybody for what was going on. But it was even better than they expected or projected.
So do we need to make any changes? A lot of us aren't really actively investing. We're just sort of putting money in a 401k or IRA. Should just the regular guy do anything in response to this news?
Well, I think, the 401k, it says, yeah, that's a great way, especially if you get a match. I mean, keep on building. And with bull markets, they tend to go a little further than people expect. And, when you do get corrections, if you're still contributing, that can help you longer term if you have a reasonably good allocation. But there's some great things happening in the background for the U.S. economy that are really encouraging. Productivity in the second quarter, 2.8% improvement. That's hourly output, right? And that says deregulation. We talked about this before the election, James, and that's deregulation is having a profound impact, and it's just getting started.
Yeah, every dollar you don't have to spend complying with some regulation could go to profit, or maybe just saving your company there. I'm trying to find some, negative warning signs before the end of the year, and really we have a pretty clear pathway forward. The tariff thing doesn't seem to be shaking anyone up anymore. Inflation seems to be somewhat under control. The only negatives I can see here, and help me out if I'm missing something, number one, the end of the fiscal year, we could have, another government shutdown fight, and, that
would be terrible.
But that would be at the beginning of October, and we still don't have a long-term deal with China set up as far as trade goes. Other than that, am I just too optimistic over here?
Usually something comes that's unexpected. If you're going to, have a big correction, and Trump's tariffs, the magnitude and the global impact of them, when he first announced them, that was way unexpected and way more disruptive than people thought. And that's one of the reasons you had this quick bear market that ended in early April. So usually you get a systemic shock that nobody was expecting, and that's usually what brings on that type of correction. If we were trying to anticipate the negatives, you're right. It's difficult to see, and take the manufacturing expansion rate, the highest in 3 years. So there's some underlying positives. Now, to your point about hey, when's the next correction? What's the bad news coming? As the Federal Reserve starts to move the interest rates down, you do have this underpinning that is positive because they really should be at about 3%. And as they head that way, net present value of future cash flows from profit, well, that's the market, and it tends to go up.
So I'm expecting a little bit of a sugar high from the Fed lowering rates next month, which pretty much everyone's expecting. However, when he made that statement last week and we got a little bump from him, sort of doing the what's it called, foreshadowing on the next rate hike, could the next bump already be built in?
Oh, they're building it in right now. Like the S&P 500 did make a new high today, even though NVIDIA went down and their earnings were spectacular.
Well, it's not done yet.
Yeah, there are some. What's not done yet?
No, I'm just saying the market days. We still got 30 minutes. Don't jinx them.
Okay, all right. Well, it's about a -1. But anyway, at this point, right, we got 5 minutes. So, but the interesting part, S&P 500 making a new high, that does correspond to it. There's been some movement in treasuries saying, okay, yeah, it's already leaked out of the Fed. That's probably what they're going to do because the bond market, well, the Fed's leaky and the bond market anticipates. But the more important thing is, where are you going to be at the end of 2026? You really should be at about 3% based on inflation, and getting there is a positive that underpins the negative news that we'll get unexpectedly.
All right. Well, it's good chat and a good reason to have a chat. Positive economic news. It's not going to be really trumpeted too much by Team Blue media. So thank you very much.
I did some research on that $3.1 billion Fed renovation. I'll send it to Garrett and we can dive into it next time if you want.
Yeah. What are they building? A football stadium? Thank you very much, Spencer McGowan. Catch him on the weekends here on WBAP or networthradio.com. Plus, he has the McGowan Group during the week and the cool little offices over at the Crescent. Fun stuff. We'll continue talking about the booming economy next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.